Executive summary. In 2020, investigation revealed that Buhu's Leicester supply chain workers earn as little as £350 an hour, far below the minimum wage, and worker is in unsafe pandemic era conditions. An independent review found that Buhu's supplier oversight was inadequate, and the top executive knew but they failed to act. They prioritizing profits over the worker welfare. The crisis involved broader ethical failures like labour rights violation, underpayment and unsafe conditions. Animal welfare issues from mislabeling real fur as fox, and environmental harm from overproduction and textile waste. There are multiple ethical theories applied here, which is the first one is utilitarianism, which is the harm outweigh the consumer benefits. The second one is Kantian ethics, where workers were used merely for profits. And the third one is virtue ethics, where driven by greed and irresponsibility. And the fourth one is justice theory, where executive profit while the workers suffered. And the last one is right-based ethics, which is violating health, safety and labour's right. Though Buhu operate legally in many areas, it act unethically, proving that legality doesn't always equal morality. After strong public backlash, including the #BoycottBuhu campaign, the Buhu launched the Agenda for Change program, but public trust remains fragile.
As issue summary, the fast fashion refers to producing trendy and low-cost clothes quickly for mass market. This business model prioritizes speed and low price over quality, ethics and also workers' welfare. For our case, which is the Buhu and the Leicester factory scandal, in July 2020, the newspaper exposed that the factory worker in Leicester paid as low as $3.5 per hour, which is below UK minimum wage. There's also poor in health and safety standards, especially during COVID-19 pandemic. After that, Buhu conduct independent review that later revealed that they found inadequate monitoring of supply chain practices in the company. It's also exposed a lack of governance and systemic corporate failure. And the last one is senior directors of the company are aware with the violation but took no action and allow the abuse to continue. So it is concern the stakeholders about the scandal for the workers. 10,000 workers in Leicester come from the vulnerable communities, and they face exploitation because of the low pay, no formal contract and also unsafe condition to work. For Buhu's management, they failed to ensure ethical labor practices. And the last one, for consumers, they unknowingly support the unethical practices by purchasing cheap clothes from the company, from the factory. So in our analysis, the key ethical issues that we will discuss is, the first one is the violation of UK labour laws. The second one is lack of corporate transparency and accountability. And the last one is the need for mandatory human rights due diligence to protect workers.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nilfar Amiti Zainuddin. My metric number is 293851. Today, I will be presenting an ethical analysis of Buhu, one of the leading fast fashion retailers in UK. Although Buhu has grown rapidly by offering trendy and affordable clothing, it has faced serious criticism over unethical business practices. We will explore three main areas: labor exploitation, animal welfare, and environmental impact. Let's begin with labor practices. Buhu has been repeatedly accused of exploiting workers, particularly in its supply chain based in Leicester. Reports reveal that some workers were paid as little as £3.50 per hour, which is well below the legal minimum wage in the UK. In addition to unfair wages, working conditions were described as unsafe and exploitative. Between the years 2017 and 2022, it is estimated that workers were underpaid by more than £125 million. At the same time, Buhu's CEOs was earning around £1.3 million per year, even when the company failed to meet its business targets. More recently, in the year 2023, investigations show that Buhu continued to pressure suppliers into accepting prices that were unsustainably low, which is a practice that often leads to cost cutting at the expense of worker rights. Next, let's move on to animal welfare. Boohoo did take a step in the right direction by banning real fur. However, it still used materials such as wool, leather and feathers, all which are derived from animals. Even more concerning, the company once advertised a product containing real rabbit fur as faux fur, misleading consumers and raising ethical concerns. Boohoo's animal welfare policy is minimal and poorly enforced. This shows that animal welfare is not a true priority for the company. Lastly, let's look at Boohoo's environmental impact. The company promotes ultra-fast fashion, which is constantly releasing new styles to encourage consumers to buy more. This business model promotes overconsumption, leading to excessive textile waste and high carbon emissions. Although Boohoo has announced sustainability goals, its strong focus on speed and mass production goes against the commitments. Even more troubling, a Boohoo director admits that the company burns unused fabric and damaged clothes in the UK, which is a practice that is both wasteful and harmful to the environment. Now, let's look at Boohoo's actions using 5 ethical theories. This helps us understand why their practices are considered unethical from different viewpoints. First, utilitarianism. Utilitarianism looks at what brings the most happiness to the most people. Yes, Boohoo provides cheap clothes and jobs, which can seem like a good thing, but the harm caused, like poor working conditions, unfair pay, and environmental damage, is much greater than the benefits. That's why, from a utilitarian view, Boohoo's actions are unethical. Second, content ethics or universalism. Content ethics is about doing the right thing no matter what and treating people with respect. Boohoo paid workers only £3.50 an hour and made them work during lockdown. That shows the company treat workers as tools to make money, not as people. From this view, what they did is simply wrong. The third one, virtue ethics. Virtue ethics focus on moral character, doing what's right because it shows good values like honesty and care. Boohoo continued using unfair labor even after getting public backlash. This shows greed and a lack of responsibility, so they don't show the good character we expect from a responsible company. Number 4, justice and fairness. This theory is about fair treatment and equal sharing of benefits. While the CEO earned over £1.3 million, including big bonus, the company lost £19 million. Meanwhile, workers were underpaid and worked in unsafe conditions. And the last one, right-based ethics. This theory says everyone has basic rights like safety, fair pay, and health. Boohoo's suppliers made people work even after testing positive for COVID. They didn't follow proper safety rules and even threatened workers. That clearly breaks their rights, which makes it unethical to no matter the reason. All 5 theories show that Boohoo's actions from labor abuse to unfair pay go against basic ethics. It reminds us that businesses should care about people, not just profits.
Let's begin by looking at the regulatory oversight and ethical gaps in Boohoo's case. Regulatory oversight refers to the enforcement of law to ensure businesses operate fairly and ethically. It plays a crucial role in protecting workers' rights, public safety, and accountability. But in Boohoo's case, these protections fail. In their Leicester factories, workers are reportedly paid as little as £3.5 per hour, which is below UK national minimum wage of £7.83 in 2019. Despite existing law, regulators fail to act promptly. This lack of enforcement allows exploitation to continue and exposing a major failure in oversight. Now, on the ethical side, even if a business follows legal standards, it may still fall short ethically. For instance, Boohoo received the lowest ethical rating in 2016 Australian Fashion Report due to signs of poor supply chain practice. Things took turn in July 2020 when media exposure revealed unsafe working environments and modern slavery-like practice in Boohoo's supply chain, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. The story gained widespread coverage from major outlets like The Guardian and BBC, which sparked public awareness, especially after report emerged of workers in Manchester picking 130 items per hour in 32 Celsius heat. Social media amplified the backlash, Hashtag like hashtag boycott Boohoo trended as influencer and consumer demanded ethical reform. As a result, Boohoo lost partnerships with major retail brands and fashion influencers. To recover, Boohoo launched the Agenda for Change, a reform plan including publishing their factory list, appointing an ESG expert, and promising fairer practice. However, public scrutiny continues. Critics argue while Boohoo made some changes, the real test lies in long-term commitment and independent verification of their claims. In summary, this case not just highlight the failure of regulation but also the ethical lapse. Once it's exposed, it can trigger a widespread backlash and long-lasting damage to a brand.
Conclusion: the Boohoo scandal clearly shows how a focus on profit without ethical responsibility can lead to serious harm to workers, consumers, and the environment. Boohoo's failure to ensure fair labour practice and supply chain oversight highlight major ethical concerns. Although the company has made effort to repair its image, the damage to its reputation and stakeholders is already clear. This case emphasizes that ethical values must be part of every business decision and that business should go beyond legal requirements to actively support human rights, environmental protection, and fairness. Cooperation between regulators, companies, and consumers is key to building a more transparent and ethical concerned fashion industry. There are three ethical lessons learned. First, legal compliance is not enough. Following the law does not always mean a company is acting ethically. Ethical behavior requires companies to go beyond legal requirements. Leaders should align business practice with moral principles. Implementing ethical guidelines strengthens decision making. Second, workers' rights and fair treatment. Companies must prioritize workers' well-being over short-term profit, avoid exploitation and ensure safe, fair working conditions. Respect for human dignity is a core ethical principle. Third, corporate governance and the need of ethical leadership. Boohoo failed to address non-supply chain issues. Weak ethical leadership enables systemic unethical practice. Strong monitoring and ethical oversight are essential. Companies should conduct regular audits to ensure supplier compliance. And that's all from us. Thank you.